What's up, guys? Coach Gaglione here, and this is another edition of our Climb to 185 series. I'm your host, Coach Gaglione, and this is the Climb to 185. So this series is chronicling my strict curl training. I got a meet coming up in April. It's my second one ever. But if this is your first time stopping by, I've been involved with powerlifting and strength coaching for over 18 years. Did my first powerlifting meet back in 2006. I'm the first and only man to squat 800 pounds in 6 weight classes, and I've also totaled elite in 5 different weight categories in equipped powerlifting. So this is a kind of a new-ish venture for me. I'm pretty happy with the progress so far. I've been doing this whole training cycle without a belt. We're going to see as I start to get heavier. I have not filmed every single session, but I was able to kind of get a starting point of 165-pound beltless single. My all-time PR with a belt is 180 pounds, but there's some advantages and disadvantages to using the belt. And then today we're going to work up to a heavy double. And today is going to be more, it's my heavy day, it's my max effort day, but today is more about just getting a lot of quality repetitions in. Next week I'll be kind of back to singles. I did triples last week, so this will be kind of doubles, will be kind of on the menu, if you will. And then I'm going to kind of test myself at a local meet, at our meet that we're hosting. It's going to be our first RPS sanctioned meet, which is going to be the Strong Island Strict Curl on February 1st. So again, you guys will probably see that, and also get to see some other of our athletes compete as well. So you get to see some different body types, different techniques used, and hopefully that helps you on your journey, whether it be powerlifting, strict curl, or some combination of those things. Also, at the time of this recording, it seems that TikTok's been banned, CapCut's been banned, and I recently bought CapCut to edit these vlogs, so that's going to be interesting. But life is kind of always about kind of pivoting. And I think that's where kind of also strict curl can be a good adjunct to powerlifting. Maybe you have a bad back. Maybe you have some issues that are preventing you from doing a full power meet. I think single lift meets are underutilized, and I think they should be more common, especially as we get older, especially as we have more obligations. Last year, I recently got married. I have a family to tend to. I have a dog to tend to. So sometimes single lift meets still give you that kind of carrot to kind of work towards. It still gives you that kind of tangible goal, and I think that's one of the most important things about powerlifting is you have that kind of tangible goal you could work towards. So keep that in mind, and don't rule out single lift events, whether it be deadlift only, bench only, and I think the strict curl is a great one. You don't need any spotters, and again, I think there's some pros and cons to this because I really think that training with a crew at least once or twice a week I think is important for men and women, but especially a lot of times men tend to take on things themselves. They tend to, not have that camaraderie as often. I think women do a better job generally, on average, of kind of getting together in groups and being social. And a lot of times men kind of miss out on that. So maybe for whatever reason. So I'm not sure if I'll be able to shoot this today, but I am going to be doing my heavy deadlift training at the Bear Cave. In addition to the strict curl training, I am going to be doing a charity deadlift meet, Lift Strong fundraiser at Zach Evanesh's gym in Manasquan, New Jersey. I believe I was at the first ever, if not the second ever, Lift Strong event. I helped out with that. Originally, the Lift Strong event was for a strength coach named Alan Cosgrove, who had cancer, and I believe all the proceeds went to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Foundation. So the Lift Strong is always had like a cause associated with it. So that's kind of like another thing. Sometimes if you are able to dedicate a training session, or if you're able to dedicate a competition for like a power or a cause higher than yourself, that can be really important. Another one that kind of comes to mind around this time, so back in 2013, one of my good friends and former professional strongman, Arnold champion, former all-time record holder, Mike Jenkins, passed away, and we did a charity deadlift meet for him. So I'd maybe like to share some of that footage with you at some point. I don't know if it'll be in the vlog, maybe it'll be a reaction video, but that was that was one of the biggest meets we ever done. We had 80 lifters. We raised over $6,000 for Carrie Jenkins, who is now, you may know as Carrie Shaw, Brian Shaw's current wife. And that was a really big day for us. We had one of my good friends, Joe Meglio. He's a very successful business owner. He had his all-time PR of 650 pounds on that day. So that's where kind of like, if you can kind of tie in lifting with some sort of kind of personal goal, some sort of goal bigger than yourself, if you have a strong why, you'll figure out the how. So I know with strict curl specifically, part of the reasons that I'm competing, not only to give myself a goal, but also because I'm starting to coach very high-level athletes. My wife, for one, Hannah, Ed Joseph, he's got current drug-tested records at the 123 and 132 weight class. He does over body weight in both weight classes. And then we have John Archibald, who's done a 205 curl, which I'm sure you guys will see footage of him at some point when we recap the Strong Island strict curl. So they'll be, except my wife, they'll be competing at the Arnold this year, so we're going to hopefully get some footage of that. But one of the reasons that I am competing in the strict curl and trying to put myself through the paces is so I can kind of better serve them. I'm very accomplished as a power lifter. I'm very accomplished as a powerlifting coach, most notably training Larry Wheels for his 3 all-time world records in the 242s, 275s, and 308 weight class. So I'm very comfortable programming for powerlifting. I still, I have a lot of knowledge there for both raw and equipped lifting. Also for training people as young as youth and as upwards of, I've helped athletes as old as 70 years old get ready for competition. So got a lot of experience there. Strict curl, not so much. So a lot of the principles have held true, and that's part of what this vlog is all about. So anyways, I'm going to get into the workout, and I'll see you soon. All right, I'm going to stop yapping. We're going to get to more training now. Feeling a little stiff today. Going to work up to a top double. One of the things I wanted to kind of highlight in terms of the programming side of things, we've had a couple of videos now on my lighter day or my dynamic day. And typically when we're doing speed work or just general volume work, a good rule of thumb is to kind of get anywhere from 15 to 25 kind of working reps through your working sets. So that could be 3 sets of 5. That could be, 3 sets of 6 on the lower end, things of that nature, 4 sets of 4. And then kind of the higher volume stuff would be like your 5x5, 6x4, 8x3, more closer to 25 total repetitions. So if you're looking to build more explosive strength, you're going to have more higher sets, lower repetitions, like the 8x3, for example. And then if you are doing more muscle building type work, or you're trying to increase your capacity, maybe your muscle size, then something like a 5x5, and then the 6x4 is kind of in between. When it comes to heavier training, Dan John's a good resource for like just general programming stuff. Even outside of powerlifting, just general strength training. I think more people need to be working in that zone, because most of us are not a Larry Wheels. Most of us are not going for all-time records. We want to be the best version of ourselves, but we have other family obligations, other work-related obligations, and other stressors besides powerlifting and breaking records. So when it comes to heavier strength work, the rule of 10 is good. It doesn't necessarily mean that like you can't do less than this, but generally around that 10 reps is going to be, if they're hard sets, okay. Even going back to the 5x5, so if you're doing 5x5 at 75 to 80%, that's going to be pretty challenging. If you are doing 85% plus, that's going to be kind of true strength work. So the rule of 10 is good. So 3x3, 5 sets of 2. If you're doing like 10 singles, would be very challenging. But if you're doing sub-maximal singles, then that would be kind of a good capping point. So anywhere from 5 to 10 total repetitions. Again, 3x3, 5x2 would be, and then 10 singles would be kind of on the higher end of the volume for your strength work. And then if you're in a peaking phase, you might do, 1 set of 3 or 2 sets of 2, 3 singles. And 3 singles would be very specific to like a meet situation. And then you can kind of do some things with some heavy holds. And I'm going to do some heavy holds today just because I'll show you guys that as a peaking strategy, because I am going to, and I don't know if I'm not going to do reverse bands today, but I think reverse bands is very underutilized, especially in the raw community. And they get certainly, but basically the reverse bands, much like the chains, they're going to make the weight lighter in the bottom, heavier at the top. But the advantage of the reverse band, sometimes called a future method, is psychologically you get to load the weight on. So for example, if my goal is 185 pounds, with the kilos, I guess it'd be 187, but I could kind of use the tweener weights, but I could load up, say, somewhere between 85 to 90 kilos on the bar, something, under 200 pounds. I could do an overloading set actually feel that weight at the lockout and get that also the physical confidence that I can handle the weight at the top, but also the mental confidence that I've actually seen the weight on the bar and I've actually physically moved it. So I think there's a big psychological benefit to doing reverse band training, and there is a high cost to doing those really heavy sets that can be very fatiguing and not as stimulating as like some of your lighter volume work. So that's kind of the pros and cons of that, but I do think there is a lot of psychological benefit, and at the end of the day, this is an athletic competition, and we have to kind of take that into account. So anyways, I'm going to work my patterns a little bit, so I'm going to do some pause curls. Doesn't feel too bad. I'm going to throw on the greens and then get going. Again, for those people that are newer, we have these starting weights on here plus these collars. So this makes it a 15 kilo starting weight. So now obviously we're going to add another 20 kilos. So now we're getting to that 55 kilo mark, which is, again, this is, a good place to be for like a first actual like loaded warm up for me. I haven't decided if I want to actually put the reds on today or if I'm going to use the blues, because I did make a mistake on my math. So I'll probably do a couple of warm ups, and then once I get to the red plates, which will make it like 143, about 65 kilos. So once I get to 65 kilos, we'll start to slow down the jumps a little bit. I'm already messing up my math, so this is going to be, this is why it's important to have something like this, a kilo chart. It's really good. So the starting weight was 15 kilos, excuse me, so so if we add 20 to 15, it's 35, so this is 77 pounds. I knew that I messed up my math. Anyway, so this is going to be my first weighted warm-up. I'm going to start doing doubles here. And a little sport psych trick. I don't remember if I mentioned this before on this vlog series, but I always close my eyes, visualize the setup of the lift, visualize the execution of the lift, and visualize your success during the lift. So if you notice, when I start to set up, I start to get more dialed in. I'll put myself at the venue. So little trick there. I'll kind of talk a little bit more about sport psych as we get deeper into the peaking process. Felt pretty good. So at this point, I'll put my wrist wraps on, and what I'm electing to do is I'm going to take a 30 kilo jump, and then what we'll do is I'll take a 20 kilo jump, and then I'll probably take some small jumps and just again accumulate some more sets. Again, getting that Dan John kind of rule of 10, if you will. So we had 35. So the whites would make it 40. 45 kilos. And this is still like a respectable weight. Again, for me, like, I don't really have the best grip. I'm still kind of dealing with that forearm. It's getting a lot better, but so I'm going to put my wrist wraps on this set. I'm going to get a little bit more warm. I'll probably take my sweatshirt off after the set, and we'll kind of go from there. Got my wrist wraps on. I'm going to get some chalk. I'm really trying to make sure that I wait a little bit on release rep number 1, but I'm not going to halt these reps. I want be a little bit more dynamic on that second rep. So I think my pulls could be a little bit better, but strength feels good today. So I'm going to throw the reds on, it'll be 65 kilos, and then we'll take smaller jumps from there. So one of the most annoying things about strict curl training when you're by yourself is getting the big weights on this bar. A lot of times these racks will not be able to support. They'll kind of tend to tip over. So sometimes you got to get a little creative with your loading strategies. So even you could start to see with this weight, even with kind of a green on there, which is not too heavy. So I got to be a little bit creative when loading this up. And, you know, even for me to hold a 25 kilo plate, which is about 55 pounds with one hand, it's not like the easiest thing in the world. So again, sometimes not all racks are going to be kind of user friendly, but, and again, with that, my forearm issue, I have a little bit of a hard time actually maneuvering the weight with one hand. But I do like to try to simulate what competition is going to be like. I believe the meet I'm doing is going to be in pounds, so when that meet gets closer, I will probably train in pounds exclusively during the peaking phase, but most meets are going to be in kilos. Most 365 strong, I believe, is primarily in pounds. So again, but I want to get used to all different scenarios, and most federations are going to use kilos at this point in time. So I want to get used to the actual feel of what the weights are going to be like in competition. So just especially like if you're like a deadlifter, a really strong deadlifter, these kilo plates are thinner, so they're going to be tighter to the bar. So it's going to be like less whip, for example. So the amount of bend in the bar and the amount of flex in the bar and how it's going to whip, how it's going to actually move through space when you apply force is certainly going to be different if you have very wide bumpers or very wide pounds plates. So it's not the most important thing at a beginner level, but as you get more advanced, the stronger you are, all those little details do matter. All right, so we're going to load up 70 kilos. So this is certainly going to be a working set. This was actually kind of my top triple last week, and this was challenging for 3. So we're going to do our first double here. So, like I mentioned before, this was kind of a challenging weight for me last week, especially beltless, but we're going to kind of continue to work on that. So one of the things I wanted to note, because I'm working up to a top double today, so one of my colleagues, good friends, John Cooper, one of the most accomplished strict curl athletes in the game, him and others, Bruce Knox, they have a YouTube channel, Curling Avengers, really good resource. I'm trying to also put out some more newer information, but as far as older resources, I think they're the go-to. Those are the guys that I learned the most from in terms of technique, programming, and things of that nature. Now I'm kind of adding my own little flair and spin to it. But anyways, so one thing that's important, I would say this is good advice just for a single lift meet as well. You have to understand when you're doing a full powerlifting event, powerlifter, weightlifters, crossfitter, etc., strongman athlete, you can't like necessarily blow your load, so to speak, on any one event. Certainly not the first event. One of the worst things that you could do is obviously bomb out, but besides that, that's the worst thing you could do, bomb out, get injured, etc. But the second worst thing that you could do is just really kind of get an injury or really kind of psychologically set yourself up from failure by really struggling like on your squat, for example, or if you really struggle on your snatch and weightlifting, whatever the first event is in your strongman competition. You want to build momentum going into the meet, but your strategy will certainly change. Like obviously for me, as an equipped squatter, if your squat is your best lift, you may need to be a little bit more aggressive, but you still at least want to go 2 for 2, if not 3 for 3. But generally the best strategy is going to be try to conserve energy going into your final event, which is the deadlift. So the old adage for powerlifting, if you could triple it on any given day, you could open with it. So that's going to be somewhere between, on the low end, 87%, on the high end, 93%. Usually I like to be around 90%, kind of somewhere in the middle. If you are a really accomplished squatter like myself, you may want to open a little heavier. In the strict curl, because it is a single lift event and the margins are much smaller, the room for error is much smaller, and also you are allowed to take a 1 kilo jump, a half kilo jump, half kilo or 1 pound jump in competition. Again, for most federations, not every federation is going to be the same. So much like weightlifting. So since you're allowed to take smaller jumps, and since that the absolute load is lower and it's only a single lift, a better rule of thumb might be 93, even upwards of 95%. Could be a good opening attempt. Something that you could do for a double, something that you've done for a double in training, at least once, if not several times. So that is a consideration that sometimes in strict curl events, especially maybe not your first competition, but in a higher level competition, you will see athletes opening slightly at heavier percentages, just because, again, remember, there's no like event after the strict curl. It's a single lift event. So you can be more aggressive with those situations. Something to keep in mind as you climb the ranks, something to keep in mind if you ever do a bench only event or if you do a deadlift only event. You don't necessarily want to, if you are trying to be competitive or if you're going for a particular record, some of those tried and true strategies for a full meet may not apply to you. So anyways, this is 70 kilos on the bar. Let me just make sure that's correct. Yeah, 70 kilos on the bar, which is about 154 pounds. Then I'll start to take some smaller jumps from there. The goal is to do something at or around 160 for 2. We'll see how I feel. I'm a little bit stiff today, and I got a long time before April, so I don't want to kind of, again, blow my load. I want to kind of incrementally increase over time, so we'll kind of see, and we'll check it out. All right, we're getting close to the top set. I gotta get a little bit more oomph into this one, a little bit more spice. 154 pounds, 70 kilos, going for 2. I was hoping to move that a little bit better, so I'm going to take a smaller jump. Again, anything more than this will be a PR, so I'm going to take a few minutes. We're going to put the silvers on, so it'll be 72.5, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we're getting close to the top set, if not the top set. I'm just going to kind of see how this moves. This is 72.5 kilos, or about just shy of 160 pounds. All right, I think that's going to be the top set. I'm going to review the footage. I think that looks pretty good. Definitely the last one was a struggle. I don't think I could have got a third. Maybe more weight, so probably rate that a 9.5. Forearms not feeling so great, so going to lift in a fight another day. I'm going to work back down, but before I do that, I'm going to take a heavy hold, and I've got to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to do a heavy hold, and then I'll do some back down sets. All right, so that's going to be my top set. I want to do a little bit more, but again, I got to be patient. So what I am going to do, I'm going to take my handy kilo chart. So it's going to be a little bit of, let's see. Yeah, I think what we'll do, because I want to kind of show you what it would really look like. This is probably more than I should be doing right now, but it's just a hold. So I'm going to take out 90 kilos. Yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm going to take out, we're going to put a green on. My brain is like still recovering from the last set. This is real world stuff. Yeah, so this is 140, so this is 65 plus 20, 85 kilos. So this is kind of pretty close to the goal. And again, I'm not quite there yet. And, you know, honestly, truthfully, at this, rate, we still kind of got a lot of time, but I was hoping I'd be a little bit further along as most of us do with our goals. And I may need to do some more general training just to get my forearm healthy, strengthen my grip a little bit. But this would be like kind of my ideal, weight. So this, so 85 is about 187. So a little bit more than my goal. But again, I should be able to kind of pick this comfortably if I actually want to curl this. So I'm going to give myself a second to gather myself, and then we're going to just show you what a heavy pick looks like. All right, we're going to do a heavy takeout or heavy pick. I just like to say pick. That's kind of like what we call when you take out a squat, but heavy hold, heavy unrack, whatever you want to call it. But this is a great way to just kind of peak your nervous system, and just also, again, the setup is part of the lift, so why not practice it? Why not train it? Just like I think heavy walkouts and heavy unracks have their place, especially if you compete in a federation that uses squat stands, but also the monolift too. And then also if you are someone that some federations don't allow a coach to hand you off, it's only gonna be a platform person. So if you elect to do a self handout, I do think some heavier unracks should be part of your training, especially during a peaking process. So this might be like a little bit early in the training process to do this, but again, I wanted to show you, and also I am doing a tune-up meet, so I wanted to, and while I don't think reverse bands are necessary right now, I may do a reverse band set next week, but I wanted to show you guys the process. So you can kind of see, like, even just kind of taking it out doesn't feel too great. So I have a long ways to go, I think, just kind of based off that. But the only way you get better is if you practice. Obviously, I'm not peaked. Obviously, I'm not tired. And the other thing I haven't talked about too much is I'm kind of adjusting my diet a little bit, trying to get leaner. So that will change. So right now I'm not having any starches. I'm just having meat and fruit and some roots, which would be like carrots and the occasional potato here and there. But it's been like maybe once a week I'll have a potato. So I'm starting to feel the effects of that, because it's we're almost at the end of January, and I've been kind of doing it since January 1st. So that will not happen when we get to 8 weeks out and 6 weeks out, but we were certainly at this point. So I'm going to do some back down sets, and then we're going to kind of log our sets in turnkey coach and then call it a day. So the back down sets is going to be dictated by, like, some people call it like a fatigue percentage or a fatigue drop. I'm not sure what the broccoli kids do, but essentially just kind of based on bar speed and fatigue. I'm happy that I did a heavy takeout just to kind of give myself a little bit more perspective. I got to improve my grip. I got to improve some other things. So I might do some things like hanging on the pull-up bar, and I think that might also just help my shoulder and forearm health a little bit. But nonetheless, I got to improve. I got to get better. But I am making progress, and again, the 72.5 still is a beltless PR, so I can't really get mad at that. And I'll just have to kind of make a decision if I go back to using a belt or not. But I have committed to go beltless at least for this part of the training cycle. So we're going to go back to 70 kilos, and I'll do, maybe 2 or 3 sets here at this weight, and then we'll kind of shut it down. I'll probably maybe just only film one just because this video is getting long. But I'm going to do multiple sets here. I'm going to log my results in Turnkey Coach for tracking. It'll certainly be a volume PR as well as an absolute PR for doubles. So those are all good things. And then I just got to kind of get a handle on my recovery. I'm also, I kind of mentioned, I'm doing some fairly heavy deadlift training, and that's probably bleeding into my recovery kind of demand as well. So I got to kind of keep track of that. But anyways, I'll video one down set here, and then we'll kind of close out. Thank you guys for watching. One thing I did want to showcase is just like with deadlifts, sometimes it's kind of overlooked, is kind of cleaning the bar, and especially if you do a lot of sets and it starts to get caked up, you got to be careful that chalk doesn't get too thick. And again, sometimes depending on the rack, it could be more or less of a pain in the ass, but I do need to get used to just maneuvering this bar a little bit better. So if you're kind of having a long workout, this is kind of like what I would say, heavy volume. This is probably the most challenging type of work you could do. And always make sure you double check your collars, because I had a set the other week where it was not tight and that kind of threw me off. So I'm going to do a few more sets here. I'm going to video one more, then we'll close out. All right, so back downs are going to be, just not too much of a back down. I just took off just the silvers, so it just took off 2.5 kilos. So not a huge amount, but this is kind of, again, like around like a last warm-up weight, and I want to be able to be comfortable doing volume here. This will put me in a good position to PR if I could kind of really kind of master and kind of conquer this weight. So I'm hoping that that heavy hold will make this feel really light in my hands. So, starting to get fatigued, not feeling great. Probably do one more set here and then close down, log it in Turnkey Coach. But I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, please subscribe. Please drop a comment if you have any questions. I'm going to log my work in Turnkey Coach, and then we'll keep moving forward. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon. All right, so this is my second down set. We'll see if this is actually the real outro or not. Calling an audible, and then we'll shut it down here because we're definitely kind of getting to that rule of 10, especially with the high percentage. All right, that's really a wrap. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.